She wanted silence. What she found was an echo, a whisper coming from the walls of a house forgotten by time, and by herself. The property seemed abandoned, but it held living secrets, buried memories, and a truth that would change everything. The storm outside was smaller than the one that would begin within. She just wanted a new start. But some doors, once opened, never close again. And certain reunions are more than coincidence. They are destiny. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is the Linda's Stories channel. I hope you enjoy this story. Mr. Wackham. Elisa smiled for the first time in weeks. You're still around. The old farmer approached, dismounting from the cart with surprising agility for someone his age. His blue eyes, still lively, examined Clara with curiosity. And this can't be little Clara. Look at you, all fancy and important. Clara smiled politely, extending her hand, which was ignored in favour of a tight hug filled with the scent of earth and sun. What brings you back? Asked Wackham, adjusting his straw hat. Just a visit, Clara replied quickly. My father passed away and... Roberto is gone? Oh, what a sorrow, lamented the man holding Elisa's hand. A good man, one of the best I've ever known. The conversation continued as Wackham told them about the local events of recent years. Clara watched her mother slowly come to life, like a wilted flower being watered. There was something in the simplicity of that meeting, in the honesty of that man with calloused hands, that seemed to nourish Elisa in a way that the doctors and psychologists in the city could not. The farm is for sale, did you know that? Wackham commented, pointing to a small, almost invisible sign on the gate. The last owner never showed up around here. He bought it as an investment, but I think he forgot about it. Elisa's eyes shone with an intensity that Clara hadn't seen since before her father's illness. For sale? She repeated almost breathlessly. Clara, did you hear that? Clara felt a chill run down her spine. She knew that tone, that look. It was the same one her father had when he decided something important. Mum, no, she said firmly. We can't buy a farm in ruins. You have your life in the city, your doctors, your friends at the club. What life, Clara? Elisa's voice came out strong, surprising her daughter. Waking up, taking medicine, watching television, lamenting your father's absence. That's not life. Here I felt my heart beat. 3 weeks later, Clara was signing the purchase papers for Fazenda Esperanza. Against all her business instincts, she had given in to her mother's wish. She hired an evaluation team that confirmed what her eyes had already noticed. The house would need extensive renovations, the electrical system was outdated, and the structure, although solid in its foundation, showed deterioration in several areas. Using her cell phone's flashlight, Clara carefully navigated to the entrance. She opened the door and was greeted by a gust of wind and rain, along with the silhouette of a tall man holding a powerful flashlight. Is Mrs. Elisa okay? He asked, his deep voice barely audible over the noise of the storm. Clara raised her own light, revealing a face that left her momentarily speechless. The man must have been around 45 years old, with dark hair partially greying at the temples and deep green eyes that seemed to examine her soul. There was something familiar about him, something that made her heart beat faster. Are you? She finally managed to ask. The man smiled, a smile that lit up his face more than any lantern could. You don't recognize me. Wackham is my uncle. He asked me to come help with the generator. Clara frowned, trying to associate that adult face with some childhood memory. I'm Nathan, he said, noticing her confusion. Then he added something that made Clara's blood run cold. I was born here, and so were you. The phrase hit Clara like a lightning bolt. Nathan, the foreman's son, the boy who followed her everywhere when they were children, the teenager who cried when she announced she would go to college in the capital and never return, the young man she left behind without looking back, determined to conquer the world. Nathan, she repeated, almost breathless. I didn't expect... No one ever expects, he replied with a melancholic smile. May I come in? This rain isn't going to let up anytime soon. Clara stepped aside, allowing him to enter. His soaked clothes dripped onto the already wet floor. The generator is in the barn, he explained, taking a raincoat out of the backpack he was carrying. I need to check if it's still working. If there's fuel, I can get the power back on in a few minutes. Nathan! Elisa's voice came from the living room, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. My goodness, how you've grown! Nathan hugged the lady with genuine affection. Mrs. Elisa, I'm so sorry about Mr. Roberto. He was quite a man. Elisa's eyes glistened with unshed tears. He would be happy to know you're still around, taking care of this place. Clara watched the interaction with a strange feeling in her chest. It was as if she were watching a movie where everyone knew the script except her. I'll check the generator, Nathan announced, putting on his raincoat. Clara, could you help me? I need someone to hold the flashlight. Reluctantly, Clara grabbed an umbrella and followed Nathan outside, facing the storm that seemed to have turned the world into a curtain of water. The path to the barn had never seemed so long, with mud clinging to her expensive shoes, and the wind trying to rip the umbrella from her hands. Inside the barn, the smell of hay and old wood awakened memories that Clara had buried a long time ago. She remembered hiding there with books stolen from the municipal library, dreaming of a different life. She also remembered Nathan, always finding her, always bringing water or fruit, always taking care of her in his quiet way. You've changed a lot, he commented while examining the dust-covered generator. I saw your picture in a magazine last year. The revolutionary of gastronomy, they called you. Clara felt her face burn. And you? What happened to you after I left? Nathan shrugged, concentrating on his task. Life went on. I studied agriculture, worked on various farms, took care of my parents until they passed away. Now I manage my Uncle Joachim's property. Did you get married? The question slipped out before she could hold it back. He looked at her with those piercing green eyes. No. I never met anyone who made me want to stay. The silence that followed was filled only by the sound of rain on the zinc roof and the occasional distant thunder. Nathan worked methodically, cleaning parts, checking connections, filling the fuel tank with a gallon he found in a corner. Your mother seems happy to be back, he commented after some time. She is different here, Clara admitted. In the city after Dad died, it was as if she was just existing, not living. Some people are like that, Nathan reflected. They belong to a place like trees belong to the soil where they grew. You can transplant them, and they might even survive, but they never fully flourish. Clara felt something tighten in her chest. I was definitely born in the wrong place, don't you think? Nathan didn't respond immediately. He checked some final connections and then pulled the starter cord of the generator. After 3 attempts, the engine coughed to life, filling the barn with its steady roar. The silence that followed was heavy, laden with history, with unexplored possibilities. They passed by a field where their parents used to plant corn. Now it was just tall, wild vegetation, but Clara could almost hear her father's characteristic whistle as he worked, the sound of the old tractors, the smell of freshly ploughed earth. What happened to you after you left? Nathan asked as they stopped to rest under the shade of an ancient oak tree. The real story, not the magazine version. Clara looked toward the horizon, where the sun began its slow descent. I worked a lot. I studied gastronomy, saved every penny, opened my first restaurant with a loan that cost me sleepless nights. When it succeeded, I opened another and then another. I built a brand, a reputation. Were you happy? The question, simple and direct, caught Clara off guard. Happy. She had been successful, respected, wealthy. But happy? I had moments, he finally replied. But there was always the next goal, the next restaurant, the next review to overcome. And now, what's next after the farm? Clara frowned. After? I don't know. I suppose I will return to São Paulo when the house is habitable for my mother. I will hire someone to help her here. Nathan nodded without commenting, but his eyes said something that his mouth contained. In the third week, at night, sitting on the newly renovated porch, Clara watched her mother embroidering by the soft light of the evening. There was a peace on Elisa's face that no therapist or medication in the big city had been able to provide. The sound of hooves on the path announced Nathan's arrival. He dismounted with the grace of someone who had spent their life in saddles, tied the horse to the newly painted fence, and approached with a basket covered by a checkered cloth. "I brought fresh vegetables from our garden," he announced, placing the basket on the porch floor. "And news, too." Clara felt her heart race as she noticed something different in his demeanour. "What news?" "The farm where I work has been sold to a conglomerate. They're going to turn it into a mechanised plantation. They won't need me anymore." Because now she understood what her father had tried to tell her in all those unsent letters. Sometimes, what we lose along the way is exactly what we need to find again to feel complete. And sometimes, going back home does not mean going backward. It means rediscovering who we truly are. That night, when the first drops of rain began to fall, and the wind whistled through the crevices of the restored house, Clara knew that if someone knocked on her door, she would answer not with fear or hesitation, but with the certainty of someone who has finally found her place in the world. Because that land was not just an address or a property. It was the soil where her roots, long neglected, finally found the strength to flourish again. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.